Dr. Martin Luther King said that rioting and fighting comes from people not having been heard. I came to Utah in 1972, recruited from UC Berkeley, where I had graduated by the University of Utah to teach in the communication department. And first major experience that I had here was the denial of a place to stay by a landlord. The university had rented for me a place. I had paid a deposit and had a phone installed, but when I showed up, the landlord said, "Not here." I was born and reared in Georgia during the days of separate but equal, and that was the law from 1896 until 1954. Riding the bus, African Americans were seated in the back. If they rode the train, they were seated in the front. If they were seated in a theater, they were up top. And if they rode in a boat, they were at the bottom. And there were always those who reminded us to stay in our place, except we never knew what place they were talking about. That meant that schooling was second class. In my own hometown, for example, $12 million was spent a year by the Board of Education, and $10 million of it was spent on the 1/3 of the students who were white, and the other $2 million on the other 2/3 who were African American. So it had a major negative effect to suggest to us that we couldn't do and couldn't be all that we could be. In 1954, the Supreme Court ruled that separate but equal was inherently unequal. And a year later, December, that was in May of 54, in December of 55, Mrs. Rosa Parks got on the bus and was told by the bus driver that to give up her seat to a person simply because that person was of a different skin color, and she refused to do so. We also have a Civil Rights Act that was passed in 1964 after the famous March on Washington, where Martin Luther King delivered his I Have a Dream speech. And then in 1965, we had a Voting Rights Act that passed, and I was a part of the march from Selma to Montgomery as a student who marched on that march 40 miles from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, Alabama. It affects me tremendously to have participated in the Voting Rights March and to have, as a result, a voting rights bill to have passed. Dr. King was a great person. I knew him personally. I interviewed him. I talked with him. I marched with him. He was very personable, easy to get along with, easy to talk to, no matter what your level was. So we made lots of progress, but I tell you, we still have a lot and a long ways to still go. And it seems now that a part of what's happening in our country is a suppression of the votes. And there are those who would do everything they can, it appears, to keep people's vote from counting. But I insist that every vote does count. And I believe that what has happened is that at some point we stopped the progress that we were making toward equality and fair treatment under the law and started to treat people as if they were different and less than. And I think that until we decide that all of us are affected by the behaviors that happen within our community, then none of us will be able to reach our full potential. Dr. King said it best when he said, in order to keep a person down, you have to stay down with them. I've believed that, as my mentor, Dr. Howard Thurman, said, that respect is due to all people. And you can show me respect by voting. You can show me respect by treating me as a full human being and by allowing me to reach my full potential in every way that is possible.